Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight. Ryan Edwards. We got a big show for you tonight. Of course, Steve Atwater joining us here. Also, Alexis Perry from Broncos TV and Matt Boyer as well. But we first start with Steve. Good to see you, man. How are you?
Hey, doing great, Ryan. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely, man. Let's talk about the big breaking news this week as the NFL officially came out and cut down the preseason schedule to 2 games. Now, it's the first game, it's the 4th game, and by the way, eventually this is going to be 3 games anyways. They're probably going to add a 17th regular season game next season. We can get into that in just a moment. But let's start here with 2 preseason games, and I think the thing I'm most interested to hear from you, kind of piggybacking off our conversation from last week on this show, is how much does this affect teams' ability to get ready for the season?
Well, you won't be able to see your guys go live, your main guys, the Bradley Chubbs, to see if that knee is all the way well, the Jawan James, the Bryce Callahan. You just won't be able to see those guys nearly as much because you still got to spread the reps around and get the guys on the back end of the roster reps to see who's going to make the squad. We know Bradley Chubb's going to make the team, but do we know if the 5th, 6th rounder and some of the free agents, do we know if they'll make the team? I think, it's going to be tough because they're going to have to really split up the reps and be efficient in how they do that.
Does this feel like it puts a little bit more emphasis on, as they're considering an expanded roster or expanded practice squad, it feels like that maybe you have to have more opportunities to take a look at some of your players, and you're not going to get that through game opportunities. They're already discussing it. Of course, we're hoping to hear in the next week or so about expanded rosters, but doesn't this put a little bit more emphasis on it?
Yeah, it does. And it's crazy because, not really getting a chance to see those guys play, you don't really know what you have because it takes those pressure situations to be able to find out what you really have in a player. How does he respond under real pressure, a game pressure, not practice, because, practice is totally different than a game.
Did you just quote Allen Iverson there? Did you just go Allen Iverson on me?
No. Practice is important, I think. But it's still quite different than the games. And also the players having new coaches, like they want to get a feel for what the coaches are like in difficult situations and under pressure. So I think on both sides, I think we're going to miss, not having those 2 games somewhat.
Yeah, and I especially, and maybe it's me as a diehard football fan or because I cover the team, or maybe I do kind of identify a little bit here with the coaches. I think we are going to miss something with that 4th preseason game. There have been guys that have either made this roster, made a practice squad opportunity, and then later came back up. I mean, we can even think of, even last year, Alexander Johnson was a guy that played in that 4th preseason game, and I'm sure those were valuable reps for him. And we also, of course, have to couple in that those reps in the 4th preseason game tend to help other teams see what the talent level of these players are. It's really a showcase game. Losing that, maybe for the fans, isn't such a big deal, but it feels like for these young men who have really gotten to this point, and again, it's such a small percentage that actually get to this point, it seems like a pretty big loss for them.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the front offices, the coaches, they're going to have to rely a lot more on the scouts, and the scouts are going to have to make sure they do a thorough job of, vetting these guys, because they're going to not, the coaches and everyone is not going to get a good chance to see them and evaluate them based off their play, especially if they're just not going to step into a starting role. And if they're not a, 1st, 2nd, 3rd rounder, it's kind of, it's up in the air whether you make the squad. You really got to fight for it. And the opportunities just won't be there with just playing 2 games.
Right. And in the meantime, of course, all this needs to be worked out with the NFLPA. So this was the NFL kind of coming out with this. NFLPA has to sign off on all of it. So there could be more changes. And I think, and I expect there to be more changes as we march toward the regular season. But one of the things that is going to kind of come up, I think, is, and I guess this is the next question, what do you sort of expect to see this season or as we ramp up to the season in regards to those changes?
Well, I think we all have to be ready to adapt to whatever happens because we don't know what's going to happen. I don't think the league knows 100% because we're in territory that we've never been in. And we're in uncharted territories right now with the coronavirus. And so we'll have to bob and weave, and hopefully the case numbers will go down and the guys will be able to come in and start practice on time and play the games on time. But if for some reason it doesn't work out like that, everybody just got to be ready for whatever the situation is. And, it's kind of like with the Hall of Fame situation. People ask, was I mad? No, I'm not mad. We got to bob and weave, man. We got to adjust to the situation.
I think that might be the phrase for 2020. We got to bob and weave. I kind of like that, Steve. A couple more here for you. One of the things that the NFL brought up in the reasoning for this is conditioning. A little bit of concern because these guys haven't been in the buildings for OTAs. At least you usually have an idea of that. Now, Lauren Landau's been working with these guys remotely, of course, and that's the best you can sort of do in these situations. And, of course, I kind of harken back to a really long time ago in the NFL when guys would use training camp as a way to get ready for the season. They'd come in a little bit out of shape. But those times don't really exist right now. Are you concerned about the conditioning of the players as they come in?
Yeah, I really am. And, I guess with Coach Landau doing the remote workouts, as long as he got eyes on people, it's a good chance they're doing it. But if it's just they're doing stretching and doing indoor exercises, guys can fake it through that. You got to get on that track and do some work, and you got to get on the football field and run some 40s, run some 100s. And, do your backpedaling drills and all, offensive linemen got to do all their drills. And the coaches and Lauren Landau and his staff, they will know really early on if they haven't been doing that. And if guys come into camp out of shape, it's a really high potential for injuries. And that's one of the things that I know that the coaches are worried about, Coach Landau is worried about, guys making sure that they're doing what they have to do when they're away from the facilities.